So we are going to be deploying this authentication application to the web using myasp.net. So make sure you have signed up for your 60-day account, which is free, and you do not need to give them your credit card. Before we go out there are some changes we need to make to this so that once we get this deployed, we will be able to add user roles and determine if the database is working properly or not. So the changes that we have to make, first of all, are to the role controller. We're going to open that up. And I just want you to comment out the two authorize attributes. So just put in the 2 slashes for comment. That's the only change you need to make here. And this will allow us then to create roles because those are not pre-populated. And then the other change that we're going to make is to the member controller. And this is so that we can determine if the database part of the deployment is working. I want you to comment out the authorize attribute above index and the authorize attribute above details. So this is going to let us go in and look at an index page and look at a detail page, which both will be drawing from the database. So that'll tell us if the database is working or not. Okay, so once you make those changes, you can go ahead and run a build. Do verify that everything is working properly before you deploy, because that would be very confusing if your app had an error and you went and deployed it, because then you wouldn't know where the error was coming from. So assuming that you've checked it and there are no errors, we are going to go out to myasp.net. And when you log in, you'll be at a screen similar to this. And you're going to go into the control panel. And the control panel is where you go to create the website and database. Now, for a free account, you can do one website and one database. And then when you're done using them, you actually will have to delete them. Click on the ellipsis and delete the website. And you'll also have to go into your databases. And you're going to want to delete the database. And you can kind of see what happens when you delete. It kind of stays there for a little while and then it disappears. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to create an empty website. I'm going to click on new website. And I want you guys to enter playgroup. But since I have already done this with playgroup, I'm going to change mine a little bit. And I'm just going to do playgroup version 2 on mine. So right now it's basically creating that empty site that we are going to deploy to. Okay, and you should see it here. And this web address, if you click on it, that is the address that your site will eventually deploy to. And we're going to go into databases. And MS SQL is what we want. And we're going to add a database. And you want to make sure you've got MS SQL 2019. And we're going to name the database the same as our website. So we're going to call it Playgroup. I'm going to stick the V2 on the end. And then you need a password. And this is something you're going to want to jot down because you're going to end up having to enter this into your web deploy information. Okay, and then we're going to submit this. And at this point, this is empty too. When we deploy, it'll add the tables to that database. Okay, but you should be able to see that it's there. And then our next step is to go back into our app. And we are going to right click on the project and go into Edit Project File. Now the host site, myasp.net, indicated we need to add this ASP.NET Core hosting model element to the XML file. So you're going to add that, the opening tag, and enter out of process and add the closing tag. And then what you're going to notice here is that we've got Net Core app 3.1 because this is an MVC app. Okay, so make sure you add this and then you're going to save. Okay, so now we get to go back out to myasp.net and we need to download all of the connection information. And so we got to go back over to website and you find your play group and the web deploy information you can access by clicking on this button. Okay, and so then once you do that, sometimes it displays like this where the status is off and all you have to do is click turn on. Okay, and then it expands and where it says publishing XML, you are going to click get publish setting. And I normally save this in the same folder as my application. Because for me, that's just an easy place to put it where I can remember where it is. So I'm going to kind of navigate to where I have this application and save it right there. And then I can close. And let's see, next step, going back over to Visual Studio, right click on the project and choose publish. Okay, now I've already done this, you guys have not. So what you're gonna see is something that looks like that. Okay, and so what you're gonna wanna do is click on Import Profile and click on Next. Okay, and then where it says Publish Settings, this is where you're going to click on Browse. And you have to find that file that you downloaded. Okay, now that's part of the reason I stick mine in my project folder because then I know exactly where it is and it's easier for me to find. So I'm navigating my way there. Here it is. And I'm going to click Finish. So it does fill in quite a bit of information for you, but there's a couple things that we need to customize. One of them is the password for the site, and the other one deals with the database settings. So we need to edit this. So we can do more actions in edit, or we can do show all settings. Either one takes us into this publish window. And we need to go into connection. And then where it says password, you need to enter the password for your site. So this is the same password that you entered to get into myasp.net, and you're going to want to save that. Okay, and then to make sure that you can connect to your site, click on Validate Connection. should see a green check mark. Okay, that means your password is right and everything is set up correctly. Then we're going to go into settings. This is the next thing that you have to change. We need to change the database and the entity framework migration so that it's looking at our myasp.net host instead of our hard drive on our local computer. So we got to pop back out to myasp.net. We have to go into databases and MS SQL. And then we need to go into connection string examples. And the one we want is the one for ASP.NET. Now we don't want the double quotes. So we're going to highlight after the double quotes all the way to the end, and we're going to copy this. And then we're going to go back into our application and we're going to paste. So I'm going to click right into the box and press Control and the letter V. And that pastes right in there. I'm going to turn on the checkbox. And then down here, I'm going to expand out Entity Framework, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to paste, and I'm going to paste, and turn this on. And then I'm going to change my password to the password that I created for the database itself. So I'm going to pause here for a sec. And once you've got all of that set up, you're going to save. Now, what happens if you get the little box for databases, but the one for the entity framework has an error? I actually ran into this. Ironically, when I downloaded my own application. So the problem was that it thought that I downloaded onto a different computer or that I wasn't the original author. And so what I had to do, and I'm just going to show you in case you guys run into this, is I had to find the application on the drive, you know, the folder that contains everything. And so I can see I've got it up here. I had to go in and I had to delete the .config folder. So once I deleted that folder and I, did the build and everything, the error went away. Okay. So if you don't get the box here, if you get an error instead, try deleting .config, and then I would actually run a build and then try this again. Also, another thing that I always do, because I ran into a problem with it, is I always go back in here and double check to make sure it's got my settings. Because I ran into an instance where for some reason it did not save the database settings, and obviously the database didn't work then. So if it says cite for now, in this long string, then you know that it did save it. So as long as you've got the database settings in here and they are correct, and you'll notice that we've got multiple context files, so you have to put the settings in for both. Okay. And you have put in your password. Okay, you're going to save this. And then all you need to do to deploy your app is hit publish. Okay, and then in the output window, it's going to kind of show you what it's doing. And at the end, it will say publish, and hopefully it'll say, that it was successful. Assuming it was successful, it will launch your app. And it'll take you right to it. So I'm going to pause this while it's doing all this work. So once it is done, you should see that the publish was successful, and it should go ahead and launch this for you. With this particular application, what you would have to do in order to work with this is we have to add our roles. And this will pretty much tell you if the database is working. And sometimes it takes a minute, but that did work. Let's do another one. I think we had manager. I believe we had user. Okay, and so let's make sure I got those roles right. Yes, administrator, manager, user. Okay, so I got the roles. And then once I've done that, I should be able, without logging in, to see the parents and go to the details because we commented that out, but it should not let me edit. And it won't let me access anything else either. So I'm going to go ahead and register. My little bogus email. And I'll make myself an administrator. Okay, now this is actually really important. Make sure you click here to confirm your account because we don't have email set up. All right, so that, clicking on that will allow you to log in. Okay, and so now that I've done that, I should be able to access everything. If I want to edit, I can. Okay, so once you have this up and running, you need to copy your URL and paste it into the Dropbox, and you are done with the assignment. Now, because you're using the trial account, after I correct the assignment, then you can, delete the database. Just click on the ellipsis and choose delete. And you can also delete your website by clicking on the ellipsis and choosing delete website. That will allow you to create new ones for your capstone projects. And if you have any questions, run into problems, let me know. Hopefully this all goes smoothly for you.